Hey, welcome to the show today. Or I don't even know show, not so much show. I am so excited about things that are going on in the world and in business and in life. I just found today, guess what I found? Next year, 2027, we are opening the School of Transformational Leadership in Business. I spent some years in the C-suite in different countries and doing different things, as well as, being a long-time entrepreneur with different businesses. And I also spent a long time now as a coach, a couple of decades as a coach, helping people change their lives, create money, massive wealth, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. I've done that, and I've succeeded at it for myself and for others. And in all of that doing, ooh, that sounds so fun. I often stop and reflect. I had our beautiful friend, one of the AIs, create this image that was like cool because I thought it was cool. But anyway, I thought about this. When I get caught up in our own creation, like we're doing stuff, writing another book. And it's funny? I'm in the middle of like 3 books right now. It's so much fun to create. I'm in the middle of finishing up 3 more songs that will be online pretty quick. I keep saying that, but I don't know. Anyway, 3 new songs that'll be online pretty quick. I'm going to start concerts again in September. So July, August, first part of September, I'm going to have a new concert for you, like the hour ones. Now, remember in February, March, April, May, we did a concert, an hour concert with 9 original songs and stories. So I'm going to do that again. But anyway, when we get all caught up in this busyness of like what we're doing, right? And we feel so important. Sometimes I look up at the sky and the cosmos and think, holy crap, talk about nothing. Talk about being a microscopic dot of nothing in the universe, It can easily feel like that. And if you even bring it down to the planet, you're in a big city. I just got back from San Diego, and I walked down the street in San Diego, and I walked past all these people, dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of people as I walked several blocks. And each person is in their own universe, their own thread of life, and completely unconnected and unaware of others. Maybe they're passing by within inches. Now, obviously, some people are in groups or couples or families or whatever, but so many are just individually passing through space and time, or space-time if you want to get 4-dimensional about it. And so there's a paradoxical truth. And there's several of them here, but one is that we are all connected. We all came from the same divine source. You know that. You feel it in your heart. Even if you don't know anything about it, there's all these individuals passing each other, quote, like ships in the night. We're still all one. We're all connected to each other. And at the same time, we're having our own completely separate human experience. It just hit me as I was in San Diego this last weekend, speaking at an event. As I walked past all these people. The other thing that's interesting to me is I look at the cosmos and the earth and the dirt under my feet and this microphone I'm talking into and this amazing ability I've got to broadcast live to a bunch of platforms. I think about all the creations, and then I think about at the same time we are nothing and we are magnificent. Whether you read any kind of scripture or sacred literature or not, there's a place that says, man is like God. Man is made just a little lower than the angels. And what strikes me as interesting? We're microscopic in the scope of the universe of creation. But and I know, when you sit quietly, that the divine, whatever name you give it, knows your name. And sometimes we can get caught up or stuck or hurt or lonely or feel like we're disowned. But the truth is, God, that's the name I use, you use whatever name you use, knows your name. You know what else? The divine loves you. And there's evidence of that. It's easy to say that kind of stuff. And yeah. There's evidence of that. When things happen struggles and terrible things, whether they're on a macro scale, like nationwide, or on a micro scale, like in your own heart, we are drawn to pray to something. When something gets terrible, we fall on our knees or our faces and we plead for help. How interesting is that? So we go to this from this place of being tiny and insignificant, we could be, to being immensely important to the divine. We're just a flicker, a breath, a fragile moment. And at the same time, you, right now, you're infinitely known. You're infinitely and deeply known and loved. You know what else you have and I have, we got as a gift? We have agency. Agency is the ability for us to choose. One of the favorite things I talk about is a billion-dollar framework. I have lots of these in my coaching and books that I write. And oh, hey, I just had a new book out. It's on Amazon. It's called Masterpiece. Go check it out. Put my name in on Amazon and it's right at the top. Masterpiece. And the subtitle is Seize the Day, Live Your Purpose, and Change the World. And you can. Anyway, when you think about us as beings, we have several things that others don't, other created things, trees and even animals. We have consciousness, which is we are self-aware, and that is a very non-existent or limited thing in other living, breathing creatures. But we've been given that by the divine to be self-aware, meaning we are aware of our thinking. We can be aware that it is only thinking instead of thoughts being reality, right? And one of the precious gifts is we have the gift of agency. Now, you might do what I used to do. I used to say, oh man, I got no choice. I got to do this and I got to do this, and fill my life with resentful feelings like I didn't have any choice. And I don't live there anymore, ever, any day, not 1 second. Because the truth is, I got agency. I get to choose. It is so much fun. I was just on a coaching call with a marvelous, wonderful client that I dearly love. And we were talking about this agency and about how other people in the same room with you might be saying or doing something that you don't like, that you disagree with, or that is maybe not even that, but just irritating, making a noise or doing something that just grates you to pieces. And as we were talking about agency, I have agency or choice to let that not bother me at all, to allow that person the freedom to live on their own path and love them anyway. And you know what's fun? I've actually learned to do that, and I invite you to try it. Every single person you pass today, whether they flip and cut you off in traffic, or they flip you off because they think you cut them off, or say something on the news or whatever, stop for a moment and remember, just for a sec, they came from the same divine place you did. And if you can, I challenge you, this can be tough, but look them right in the eyes, even if it's on the TV screen or across the room, and say, I love you. I love you for your humanness. I love you for knowing that right this second you're doing everything that you can that makes sense to you. You are. And I love you for that. I had an experience in the last couple of days that really surprised me. I had formed a preliminary opinion of someone, okay? Who it was, where it was, what it was, doesn't matter. But I noticed that I had, because I had this reaction to them. I saw them, and I had this feeling. And it wasn't really negative, but it wasn't positive either. It was kind of, I'm not sure about this. And then I thought, you know what? I love that person, and I'm not going to have this reaction. And so I asked them, it was an appropriate situation, to sit down and chat. And we chatted for about a half an hour. And at the end of that half hour, I realized that I just absolutely loved them. Everything I had sort of for a second imagined about them was completely wrong. And a whole bunch of other things that were the opposite were completely right. And I had the agency both to choose for a sec to recognize that I'd had that thought, and then the agency to choose to do something about it, and then further the agency to completely 180 degrees change my mind. So let's talk about some fun facts and truths. When you look at the entire cosmos, we are tiny. We are, the universe is vast beyond language. And when you look at cosmology and the study of that, they talk about the universe expanding. And, when you turn the clock backwards, that's how you get to the idea of a big bang. But anyway, it's been moving on and growing and growing. And you know what's even more interesting? The rate of expansion is growing. In other words, it's expanding faster and faster and faster. Stars, worlds, galaxies, light moving across distances we can't even imagine. And you know what's funny? We talk about it like we understand it. We talk about it like we get it. We throw numbers around and stuff like that, light years and billions and trillions and eternity and creation, but mostly we don't get anything. We don't really understand anything. And here's some fun things. We talk about stuff and we give it names, but we don't really understand it. and even if we make diagrams and draw pictures, that's not the same as understanding the glory of it. Sometimes people talk about scripture, the creation, and God said, let there be light, and it was light. And they laugh about that because they say there's no science there. There's no proof. Well, I understand what we know about the sun as a fusion furnace and, how in different layers of the sun, it's different temperatures and how light metal or light gases fuse. Blah, blah, blah. I've read all that stuff, just like you probably have. And so you understand that too. But the process of creation, of bringing that together so that it does what it does, is so incomprehensible we can't even imagine. I mean, we say things like, okay, there was a big bang, and then there was a time of galaxy formation, and these things just coalesced into clusters, and it just happened. When I think about that, that is so laughable. That's like me looking in my pantry and saying, I have all this stuff here, and if I sit here long enough, it's going to assemble itself into a loaf of bread or lasagna, and it's just going to happen. Because, forces are just, it's ridiculous. But anyway, when I think about that let there be light thing, here's something that's funny for me. I think, and I did math. I had a math scholarship, and I did 1 semester, 2, 3, 4 semesters of calculus and a semester of other stuff, differential equations and complex variables and stuff. And I didn't finish my bachelor's degree because I didn't really want to. But I took a lot of pretty advanced math classes. And when I think about teaching some of those topics, complex variables, teaching it to a gnat. Okay, here's a gnat. Now I'm going to teach this gnat how to work with complex variables. And it's laughable. It's just completely nuts, right? Well, has anybody ever thought about the fact that God saying and telling us about the creation, let there be light, maybe that's as good as it gets for our puny, finite understanding. Maybe that's all we can do. And let there be light, and that's good. Anyway, there's another story that I found in the scriptures that I thought was fascinating. There's a place in the scriptures where Moses has a meeting. He has a meeting with God. He has several meetings if you read the stories. But anyway, in one of the meetings with God, he talks to him for a while, and it says that he's talking to him face to face. And he also said that he could feel like he was protected, like he was somehow shielded or protected in that interchange. And then when the exchange got done and God was gone, Moses fell down. He fell down on the ground completely powerless, completely helpless, like a puddle of jelly. And it says in the narrative that there was several hours before he could even stand up again. And then he comments afterwards and he says, I now realize man is nothing, which I never even imagined. And I sometimes wish, and check myself and my own creation and arrogance to remember that in the giant scheme of things, I am nothing. Now, the cool thing is I'm not worthless. In fact, that creative being that's created all that we've just talked about loves you and me and knows your name. What an incredible thing. So I want you to take that in for a minute. And here's what I want you to do with it, or at least I'm going to suggest that you do. When I remember on purpose that I'm a son of God, of the Almighty, of the divine, it changes how I feel about myself. It changes what I say to everybody else. It changes how I look at other people. It changes what I look for in other people. Each person, whether I know them or not, just remembering that one fact, I am a divine son. So are you. We all are, right? Somebody once said, it doesn't matter how many generations you have in your genealogy. It doesn't matter what race you are, or where you live in the world, or when you live. None of that matters. However many, generations are. The genealogy of your spirit, the essence, the real you, because our body's just a meat sack. The generations of your spirit are just one. The pedigree's on a single line. You're a child of God, or the divine, or the universe. And every time I remember that, I'm amazed. And I see and think and feel different about everything in my day all day long. All right, now there's another aspect of this that I find funny, and that is our self-importance. I used to, I won't talk about you because you're not here and I don't know you anyway. But what I know is that I used to believe I was important. I used to believe that my opinions were important and solid, that my judgments were accurate, that my outrage was justified, and that all of those things, I used to imagine that I knew what somebody else should do and what somebody else ought to act like. And I imagined that I understood justice and timing and, good and purpose and pain and God. And I understood all that. And I have been blessed to get rid of that arrogance. I have been blessed now to understand that I understand nothing, absolutely nothing, and I'm delighted to do that. And here's how I act with that. The fires that have refined my life, and I'm not suggesting yours, because I had the experience of dying, so I died and had some conversations with the divine and came back. But the fire that has refined my soul is the fire of surrender. And what I mean by that is I quit believing in any universe that I know anything about anything. I know what I see, I know what I'm trying to do, and I regularly check every molecule of ego at the door, because the truth is I don't know anything. Now, remember that humility isn't self-hatred. Humility isn't humiliation. It's not making yourselves irrelevant or small. And this is stuff I've learned, but it's seeing things accurately. There is some intelligence or force that's created me and you and all this stuff that's in the picture behind me. Somebody created that, and they know your name. And just that, when I sit there and think that, just that by itself, and have that be true, somebody knows you and knows your name and loves you. I was talking to a client this morning about love. We all talk about love. Well, you can understand love as the building block of everything. And here's a way to think about that. Love is attractive. It's fun to be around kindness. It's fun to be around generosity. It's fun to be around compassion. It's attractive, right? It builds a circle. When people are angry or vicious or frustrated or fearful, that is repulsive. It pushes others away. So when I say love is the power that holds the universe together, I mean that quite literally. And I have no idea how it works, but it is. It's the ultimate attractive force. And all the opposites, fear, anger, hatred, bitterness, resentment, all those are repulsive. They push, they destroy. And so when I think about the divine knowing me and you, and how that changes how I feel about myself and how I feel about you and how I feel about every song that I sing and every coaching session that I give and every client that I get a chance to love, it just changes it completely. And I have some invitations for you. You see this thing right here? DreamBuildWriteIt.com. I invite you to go to that URL right this second and sign up. Doesn't cost anything. It's not about money. It's about capturing the story of your becoming. It's about capturing the beauty of the story of what makes you you and all the beautiful gifts that you have to give to the world. That yearning in your heart to serve and to do good. Ooh, let's talk about that. A couple of times a year, I do a book challenge. And the idea is to help you understand how valuable it would be if you wrote a book about, not just any book, but a book about the story of your becoming. So that's one invitation. Another invitation is, I have a podcast, and it's this, Your Ultimate Life podcast. Your Ultimate Life. And I've been doing it. This is the 7th year, and we're way above 1,100 episodes, and we're going to keep going forever as long as I can talk, and we have the gear and the opportunity. Why? Because I get to interview you. And if you'd like to tell a story about your life and how you add good to the world, I'd like to share it. Because my mission is to reach 300 million people with love, that glue, with encouragement, and with specific strategies about how to create wealth, impact, and good feeling, good vibes, good life, that ultimate life. I call it living a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. So if you've got a story you want to share, go to Your Ultimate Life Podcast, yourultimatelifepodcast.com, and there's a contact form. And reach out and just say in the subject line you'd like to be a guest and tell me why. The last one down here in the bottom right here is KellenFlukigerMedia.com. I invite you to go there and check that out. That's just a place to go to see what else we've got. All right, now let's get back to the thing when we say what we are and what we aren't. The infinite nothing, it's kind of infinite and nothing. Your soul is infinite. It is infinite and eternal. It is of immense value. You individually, me individually, on this one little speck of dirt, on this one tiny arm of a spiral galaxy in the midst of infinity, there's a God who knows your name. And when you remember that, and when I remember, it changes everything. Because even when we make mistakes, even when we do stupid stuff, we can fix it. We can repair. We can learn to love again. We can learn to change. We can learn to be a different person. We can learn those things if we want to. And nobody's going to make us. But we can learn, and then we can create. The other thing I learn and love about people so much, and it was true with this person that I just gave you the story about a little bit ago, about completely changing my thoughts about them. The creativity. You right now have the ability to create business, music, books, families, healing, communities, movements. Do you have a movement you want to create? You can take pain and turn it into compassion. You can take failure and turn it into wisdom, right? You can take shame and turn it into humility. You can take a broken life and build something magnificent and beautiful. And if you're already building something magnificent and beautiful, I would love to share your story, the story of your becoming. Which is another reason to go here, yourultimatelife.podcast.com. Use the contact form. All right, so I want to wrap up with one more thought, and that is the W in WIPOS, your worth. The worth of a soul is great, not because we're big, but because you are precious enough to be known and numbered and cared for by the Creator. Some scripture somewhere says the hairs of your head are numbered. Now, that number's getting small, right? Because they're all falling out, but whatever. The hairs of your head are numbered. The thoughts of your heart are treasured and precious. The anguish and struggle that you have sounds loudly in the ears of the divine. And I used to wonder why, God let me, and by extension you and everybody else, go through so much pain and struggling. And I've now learned two things. One, there is a reason, even if I don't understand it. And the longer I live, the more reasons I have now seen and I appreciate. But I also realize that my understanding is microscopic. The other thing is, because your worth, you're child of the divine, and your worth is infinite, that means you can create infinite impact. Now, because I'm a coach and I deal in those circles, people are telling me all the time, I want to create impact. I want to create impact. I want to change the world. I want to raise the consciousness. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then when I look in their lives, day to day, minute to minute, hour to hour, the hours, the thoughts, the behavior, it isn't spent on that. And so it just makes me wonder, if I do that, how do I think I'm going to have an impact if my energy and my love and my attention and my focus isn't doing the things that create impact? Well, obviously it's not. So you are of infinite worth. You have the ability to create infinite impact. Life gets in the way a lot. But if we choose to always come back to the truth, which is that you're a divine being, you have infinite worth, you have possibilities that are endless. It's just a case of reminding ourselves day to day that we have that. And the last thought here is about judgment. We live in a time right now when there's so much anger, frustration, finger pointing, rage, and fury at everybody else. They're all wrong and stupid. You know what? I can't explain to you what it's been like since I learned to just love everybody. I no longer carry anger at anyone. I don't agree. I wouldn't do it a certain way or think or say whatever. But I have learned, and it is such a relief, to allow everyone to truly live and believe exactly as they wish, and to love them anyway. I don't need to know you to love you. That brings peace. I don't need to have everything perfect to do what I can and move forward. That brings action. I don't need to have the stars lined up to create outcomes. I can create today, right now, and I am. My goal, my commitment, my love is to reach you and tell you how great, beautiful you are. And you can do nothing with it or you can do everything. The divine knows us inside and out. It knows your thoughts. He knows your intentions. He knows who you are becoming. He knows who you want to become. And all the help we need to become those things is available, but we have to seek and we have to act and we have to repair and return. But it's available, and that's the most glorious news. It's never the wrong time. Right this minute's the best time to love yourself and move forward with the mission and purpose that's burning in your heart. I love you. If I can do something to help you, I will. If you want to be on a show, YourUltimateLifePodcast.com, use the contact form. I got shows I can put you on, places you can speak and share your message. I'd love to help. It's all I do. My message and yours together can change the world. We'll see you tomorrow.